Hi, this is Jim Durkin. Welcome to today's webinar session on math functions in our Impact Suite for ACT. Okay, here we're seeing ACT version 16 with Impact Suite installed. We can tell that right away by our left navigation bar is much improved. But let's get into the heart of this is math functions. Inside of the Impact tool, if we go to the Tools menu and we go to Impact Suite, on these tabs over here on the left is our Math tab. And if I click on the Math, this is going to show me a list of all the fields or all the math functions that are going to run. Over down here at the right-hand side, we can select a different table. So we can see our math functions for opportunity table, or our math functions for contact. So let's just look at a contact one in the beginning. So here we have two of them up here. So I'm going to highlight one, and I'm just going to click on Modify. So this is our math formula builder window. At the top we have the name of the formula, whether it's active and when it's running. Does it run when value changes? Does it run when you're navigating records? Here's the results field, so we're going to return the formula back into the product amount field. We also have an override field, so you can actually create a true or false field and override the math function. And then we have the order applied. You may have very complex formulas there. I want to do the price times the quantity before I do the commission splits. So you may have formula 1 and then formula 2, formula 3. There's an applied order to the formulas. Okay, well here's the formula. So let's just go and look at this formula running. We're going to come back into this into much more detail. So let's say OK to this. Now, there's one caveat I need to tell everybody about there. On the math functions, and we've been working with the ACT developers on this, is that when you first start ACT up, ACT doesn't raise its correct events. You actually have to walk onto a different record. As soon as you walk onto another record, then all the math functions will light up for us. So here, if I just enter in a 2 over here, as you can see, we have quantity times the price is the amount. So I'm just going to make this 20, and we'll see that change for us. So that's a very simple math formula being applied. Let's look at where we're doing another math formula on this same screen. If we go to our time build over here, this is a custom table by Impact Suite, and it's time build. So if I open up one of these records, I have another formula here. So I have my hourly rate is 200, and I have 6 billable hours. That's $1,200. But what we're going to do when we say OK to this, not only does this formula get calculated, but this row gets calculated too. So the total of our time build is, before we changed it, was 2,990. And if you remember, that's our product amount field up here, 2,990. So by changing a value in a custom table, we're going to make the formula roll all the way back up to its parent. So there we go. We change the value. See, we're at 3,595. So if I was to go into a different record, and let's say, hey, this one was really a 30-hour event, we have another $3,000, and now our value is 7,000. Now this total is done a little differently, is that when we have this total column, if I right-click on this column header and I say edit this column, here's our math function being applied to the interface. So I'm saying I want the total, and I want the total value, which is $7,010, $7,100, copied into the product price field, which is the price field up here. And here I can copy it into any field inside of the contact table. So that's how we're raising that total value from the list, the child table list, to the parent. Okay, well let's go in and look at this again. Let's go into here. And let's go and look at this designer, right? Now, there's two ways to get to the formulas. One I showed you by going to the Tools menu. But when we're working with a custom table, we can also get to the formulas in the designer. So here's our designer window. And this is a custom table. We can design our data entry forms. But inside the designer, we have a math button up here, the top toolbar. And that's going to show me the math formulas just for this custom table. And here's our math formula. Let's go and open this up. And as you can see, it's pretty simple. We're saying total, and we have a typo here, so we can just change that. It's results field is the total, and it's the hours billable times the hourly rate. So let's say if this was a brand new one right here, I'm going to say hours billable. Now here's all our tables. So I'm going to go into our time billed table, and it's hours billable. And then over here we have plus and minus. We have our multiplication, and that was by hours billable by hourly rate. That was it. So if I say test to this, a return needs to be added, just some semantics here, and it says, okay, there's no errors. And that would just added this return here, because the reason why it needs the return value is this is actually scripting in here. Yes, ACT has math functions in there. ACT math functions, well, actually they just came out in version 16. With Impact Suite, you can do math functions all the way back to ACT 2010 or better. But our math functions are much more robust, as we can put conditions into our math functions. So let's just start here, and down here we have some scripting snippets on the bottom right-hand corner. So I'm going to just say if else. And it just puts a little slug in there of it. So I can say, well, if field, now let me change the field, if hourly rate is greater than 100, then return, and now you can see where the returns fit in. So return hourly rate times billable. Actually, let me just do this a little different. I just thought of a better one to do, if else. And I'm going to say, hey, we give discounts, right? So hours billable, if hours billable is greater than 10. So if we're billing more than 10 hours, we're going to give them a discount. So I'm going to say if it's more than 10 hours, we say it's our hourly rate times 0.9. So that's our discount. We're going to give them a 10% discount. So we're saying hourly rate times 9 times the billable. Else, if it's less than, then we're just going to go with our simple formula. So it's hourly rate times billable. And there we go. There we have a complex math statement. Now, we've done complex math statements for other people, say tax rates. And they will be, if the state equals New York, it's X percent. If the state equals New Jersey, it's Y percent. So you could have a long case statement in here, if else, for every condition that you want to return. So let's just say okay to this. So we'll test this formula. No errors, because we have all of our returns in there. And we can say save. So that's how you get into it. If you want to create a new formula, right here it's very simple. Just hit new. And you're going to come up with a blank formula. Now, formulas can pull from parent fields. I can actually say on the contact record that salesman Tom, we bill his clients at $100 an hour, and Bob, we bill at $95 an hour. So we can start with something like an if statement again in here. We'll say if, and then this time I'm going to go to the contact, and I'm going to say record manager. So let me come down here to record manager. So if record manager equals, and now everybody knows Chris Huffman, that's a classic. If the record manager equals Chris Huffman, then return, and we just go back into our billables, return, actual hours times billable rate. Now we said Chris Huffman billable is $100, so we would just put $100. Now everybody else in the database, if it's not Chris Huffman, they get billed $110 an hour. So that would be a condition that we can then pull from the parent table, the contact record. So as we're doing opportunities, line items, as we're doing child tables, we can look at its parent to see what values to pull from. Okay, let's just look at another one. Let's just say a date difference. Now here's again a slug line and date difference. So what we're doing here is some people want to say the policy starts the date the record was created plus 60 days. Or how old is this client? I want the difference between today's date and the birth date. So that would be a great function of date difference in here. Let's see. Let's look at, here's an if-else statement. Same thing we were doing before, but this is for a date. So this is giving you some lines here to say, oh, if the date is greater than, actually this would be less than, July 30th of 2010, and it's less than today's date, then return, true. Else return false. Now we could say return false. We could say return a field value. So return the employee or return unknown. Now we could just type the string in there. Now this results field is something like this. We haven't selected here. This might be something like, here's the employee. So I'm saying, hey, return into notes or into, these would have to be, of course, a character field to return into. Or you can return it into a notes field or the project name. Any field that's available can be returned to. Okay, let's just look at another one here. Now this one is parameterized, and the reason why this tagline is in here is you may want to understand some conditions that are happening on the record. Like if you may want to get the record manager in here, or you might want to say, is this a new entity or new record? When I'm adding a new record, I times everything by 0.1. When it's not a new record, it's an existing record. So you may need to get things like is new, right? So I would just do something like, I'm going to get is new, and I'm going to say if the entity is new, return, 1.1, else return 1.0. Now I could do that is new, and I could return this into a field in here that has like a commission split in it. And this is where you would be returning this value by the order of 1. So that value gets updated into the commission split before you total the price into the commissions. So as you can see, sometimes your formulas are best broken down into separate formulas. Like we have here, we have 3 different formulas running. And sometimes you can go into the formula and actually have it all drawn out here. So I could have, an if-else statement here, and then I could continue on and put another one down here, another one down here, another one down here. You can have multiple conditions in here. The downside to having all the different conditions in here is this is only going to update one field at a time. It's only going to put the results back into this field. So if you need to do a split and then a percentage, then a commission, you want to update 3 fields in the table. You're going to want to run 3 separate formulas and set them in order. And here, let me show you one that does it that way. Let me go into here. I'm going to say changes now. And actually, this is going to do 2 things for us. Let's go into our opportunity list view. And opportunities, let's go to products and services. How many people out there want to change the formula, how ACT modifies the products and services? Well, we can do that now with Impact. So let's open this up. Here we have the quantity, cost, price, and everything else. Again, let's go into the designer. And in the designer, here's our math functions. So here it is, 3 math functions. We have the adjusted price, then we have the discounted price, and then the subtotal. And they're run in order 1, 2, and 3 because the adjusted price is used in the discount, and then the discount is used in the subtotal field. So if you ran the total one first, it wouldn't adjust correctly, and it wouldn't update 3 fields in your ACT database. So here's the adjusted price. Pretty simple. price minus the price times the discount divided by 100. And here is the next one, which is the discount. It's 1 minus the adjusted price divided by the price times 100. Again, these all do things to give you, the percentages. So the discount's going to be, you'll enter in 10, but it'll be times by 0.9, and that's why we do all those hundreds in there. And then here, last one is the subtotal, which is our adjusted price, which the last formula did for us, times the quantity. Quantity is 2. My adjusted price is $89. Lo and behold, you have a simple formula right there at the end. Okay. Now, our math functions can be run from almost anywhere. When we say almost anywhere, meaning that you can have math functions that are on the contact details window, like we saw, on the company, on the group, and on the opportunities. You can have math functions that are run on custom tables like we showed you. You can have math functions that run on the products table when you're doing data entry. There's one more place that we can run math functions from, and that's the activity table. Now people say, well, why the activities? That's kind of locked down. Well, with Impact Suite, you can actually add additional fields to the activity table. Here's a classic one we always got. People say, well, I'm booking them out for 8 hours, but the technician drives, he takes lunch. The actual billable is really only 6 hours, but if I book them in at 6 hours as an event, then his totals come out wrong at the end when I run reports. So if I have this this call here, we'll just use this call. Well, actually, let's use the meeting. If I have this meeting here, this meeting may be booked out all day, but I can come along and add additional fields. Now, if you notice, this is a different meeting than you're used to looking at. In fact, our meetings, you can come along and you can take the native edit activity form and design it. So I came along into the form and I added 3 fields: quantity, cost, and total. And then, of course, in those fields, I have a math function that says calculate total calculation, and it's the cost field plus the quantity. Now remember, these are cost and quantity fields that are on the activity record. So here we go, we're back into the activity, and I could say, hey, I left him 8 units, and we're charging $88 a unit, so that's $704 that now can be pulled out onto reports and onto the records and done anything we want inside of the ACT database. But this is a way where we can track additional information, mileage. 120 miles, and I had 6 actual billable hours. So there's math functions on editing an activity event. Okay, I just want to pause here for a second. I think I answered some of the questions that were coming through, but I wanted to pause and see if anybody had any specific questions. Oh, okay. Yeah, that additional columns that we added to the activities, can they be seen other places? Yes. Yeah, we can just go into the columns and add. So activity, I clicked on that too fast. Columns right here at the top. I clicked on columns. And then if we go to the activity, we're going to see activity start, activity private. We're going to see those additional fields that we have ended up in here. I'm sorry, I don't see them right now. Oh, there it is. Cost. Remember I said there was a cost field and so forth. So you can just add those fields, and that's what would show up. This total value right here that it's seeing, this is the total value of the opportunity that this activity is attached to. So quick side note is the activity list, we can actually sort the activity list by the values of the opportunity field. So here's these activities associated with that. Or we're going to associate it by stage. So here's the stage of those opportunities. question about calculation. Can we calculate a date from an existing date plus a number? Yes. Let's go back into there for 1 second and just discuss what this scripting engine gets us. So we go back to math, and let's go back. This uses contact. We'll modify this one. This is .NET scripting logic. So I can do an if-else condition in here like I was showing you before, but I can also like contact. Let's just use product amount. I just say dates. I'm just looking for a date. Birth date. Okay, I'll just use a date field. And then I can say contact created date. Right? So date time parse. This is going to give us the date back into the birthday, but I can actually say add days. Let me take the cap locks off. Add days 30. So again, where did my cap locks go? Add days. So what I'm doing is I am into this birth date field, I'm returning the created date, and I'm adding 30 days to it. Now, I could do this instead of adding 30 days. That's kind of hard-coded. I could add a character field, an integer field. So do I have any number fields in this database? No, just say this new field is a number field. So that new field could be a data entry on your contact form. You added 30 in there, and then, or you added 60, in there. It would add those 60 days on there. And then this is where you could say, well, if contact ID status, let's just say ID status. ID status is the drop down. ID status equals customer. If it's a customer, then we add 30 days. Give him a 30-day window, right? Till the next phone call. Else, we can then say, give it a 120 window, because that's a lead, and we want the lead to, by the drop-down, customer contact, lead, hot lead, whatever that drop-down is, you can actually drive a formula on there. So what type of formulas can you do in here? It's pretty close to unlimited. We did a formula a couple months ago. It was a calculation for currency exchange rates. So they were on their opportunity, and as they were an opportunity, they were generating it. It was actually Canadian to U.S. They were Canadian, but they wanted to be able to, salespeople, to say what the dollar value was in U.S. So we had a formula that ran out to the website and got in real time the calculation, 1.06 I think it was at the time, brought it back, calculated it, and then had a field in the opportunity table that said U.S. price. And we calculated the price in there. So the end users, as they were doing the data entry, you could say, oh, the Canadian dollar is this, and the U.S. dollar is that. So pretty much unlimited inside of here. Since this is a scripting language, it's actually compiled in real time. So anything that's available in .NET architecture is available in here. Okay. Well, again, it's kind of the same kind of question. Well, what type of field formats can be used for calculations? Any type of field formats can be used. You can take a character into a date into a character. There are different things that you can do, and these are kind of like .NET things. Like you may actually have a field in your database which is a character field. So I'm just going to use state. And you may want to convert that field from character into a decimal, because you're going to be returning it into a decimal field in here. So like here's, these aren't exactly what's going to work, but what you do is, again, this is going to return a string and say this field was an integer. Well, that's not going to work because you can't store string in an integer. But what you can do is You could say convert dot to integer. So we can actually take this string and convert it to an integer. Now, where do I know where this convert to integer comes along? Well, these are all just kind of core functions of .NET. And I'll just jump into a browser here, and let's just go to Google. The hardest part about this is going to kind of be thinking in your head what to say to Google. You're going to get back 1 billion hits in here. And I'm going to actually say convert character jar to string. All right, so I don't want to convert it to a string. I want to convert it to int. Well, int, if I keep typing this out, it's going to set to integer. So here, convert a character to an integer. And basically somebody was posting how do you convert it. And oh, this is in C. So we actually want to say in front of here VB. So here's the VB equivalent. Now they're doing it a little different than I did. So this would work too. Character in here. I just want to give you one that's convert data types. See here, this is one. Convert to int 32. So it's a 32-bit variation of integer. So, you know, again, inside of here, here's convert integer to double, convert string to, let's say, a string to this. You know, again, this is just going into Google inside of here. So if people know a little bit of a scripting language, like the old VBA, they're going to understand that you can go to Google and type in, you know, if-else statements and get the syntaxing you want it to do. So what's happening under here is everything else, this, is all syntaxing. So if field A, and then this would just be the field that I would choose. So you just replace this. If field A does not equal field B, then return true, else return false. What's the biggest source for .NET formulas? Wow. Like I said, you know, Microsoft, if we look at here, let's just conversion to character string, you see that the first line, everybody knows Google. The first line tells you where it's from. If you see MSDN, Microsoft, that's usually the best place to go. It's going to give you a little bit more text heavy and tell you how it works, but they will give you, you know, they'll show you examples of it. What may happen if you're not hitting Microsoft, like this one. This is somebody answering, some programmers answering questions, and it might not be as understandable, or it may not be exactly what you need. You can't really tell that. But again, Microsoft site, and it says, you know, use a character data type. I mean, this is going to describe the function for you. So Microsoft site. So, you know, if else. So I'll say if else statements. Right. So if else statements. So there's 6,220,000 results on just the Microsoft Developer Network about how if-else statements work. Here's an if-else statement, and then here's an example of it. So here's if-else, and then again they'll give you an example down here. If count equals 0, you know, if count equals 1, if count equals that. So Microsoft is probably the best site to go to. Okay, I'm winding up my 30 minutes here. So I wanted to finish off by saying that, of course, anybody needs to reach me. They can always reach me at jim@durkincomputing.com. Math formulas can get tricky quickly, but they also can be very simple and powerful. You can do field A plus field B, field A times field B. Very simple, quick way to get into it. The logic that we open up for you, again, can get a little tricky too, but it will give you some really nice data entry patterns and some logic behind that. Okay? Again, thanks for everybody for coming, and have a great weekend. Okay, bye.